What? I don't need to understand this part. You know what? I do need to understand this part. We do need to understand this part, because here's why we need to understand it. This is all the stuff we're not doing today because of grace, because of bloodshed. The preparation, though, is not gone, right? The preparation, the foreshadowing in the Old, or what we call the Old Testament, right? The Torah and Haftarah, that foreshadowing is all physical warfare, physical battle. And some people have concerns about the depiction of that bloodshed. But I think it's there for a reason. Because spiritual warfare is real. And there will be bloodshed. There was already bloodshed for us. Right? Spiritual bloodshed. I'm not talking about blood everywhere. I'm saying the Lord shed his blood for us. And if we accept that he is Lord, believe in our heart, confess with our mouths, we're saved. But that doesn't mean the battle is without casualties, without consequence, right? It doesn't mean that we're going to reach everyone, or that people aren't going to be sick, or face tough times, or need a job, or a car, right? Or whatever it is that day. And part of spiritual warfare is praying for one another for those things. God does provide them. Amen? All right. So, at the end of all this, it says, if you don't get cleansed, you're cut off. Done. Right? At the end of 22, it says, hey, if you're not washed in the water. I noticed something for the first time as I moved into 21 through 12. And I'm just going to mention it to you guys. So you have to have water in these ashes. Right? They have to be in a pot, sprinkled, or you're dirty or you're unclean if you've touched a dead body, right? Right after this, then the children of Israel, the whole congregation, came into the wilderness of Zin in the first month, and the people stayed in Kadesh, and Miriam died there and was buried there. There was no water for the congregation. So they gathered together against Moses and Aaron. Now listen, I always assumed in the past, because later it says that you will have water for them to drink, they will have water for their herds and themselves to drink, that this was about drinking. I'm not convinced of that anymore. Think about it. Miriam, just died. You think they might have gone and mourned her? Some people might have touched her or touched other people who touched her, become unclean. If there's no water, what do you do with the ash? How do you get purified? Do you want to get cut off? All of a sudden it occurred to me, I never realized those things came right together like that. Just a thought. I'm not saying that people weren't thirsty. What I am saying is, it's an interesting consideration. It's an interesting consideration, and one that I hadn't joined the dots on before. Spiritual warfare is not the same. Is not some ethereal kind of a thing. It's an exact science. It's a strategy that the Father guides us through. And it requires, hear this, obedience. Absolute obedience if we're going to be effective. We talked about this today in the Bible study. Nobody received the direction of God, the instruction of God, the commandment of God because God just wanted to make up rules. Why did he give them to us? Same reason he gave us the written word, for the same reason he gave us the living word. He loves us. And like any father, he has given us what we need to keep us out of trouble, like any loving father would. Loving parent, for that matter. I put here a note to myself, never make the mistake of adding to or taking away. Make sure that God gets all the glory and you get none of it. Here's why. So when the congregation comes against Moshe and Aaron, here's what happens. 3, it says, the people contended with Moshe and spoke, saying, if only we had died when our brethren died before the Lord. Remember, like a whole bunch of people died? Now they wanted to be one of the dead people. Why have you brought us up, the assembly of the Lord, into this wilderness, that we and our animals should die here? And why have you made us come up out of Egypt to bring us to this evil place? It is not a place of grain or figs or vines or pomegranates, nor is there any water to drink. So Moshe and Aaron went from the presence of the assembly to the door of the tabernacle of meeting, and they fell on their faces, and the glory of the Lord appeared to them. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, take a rod, you and your brother Aaron, gather the congregation together, speak to the rock before their eyes, and it shall yield water, its water. Thus you shall bring water for them out of the rock, and give drink to the congregation and their animals. Never read it like that before. You should bring water from the rock and give drink to them and their animals, right? So back to the thing we were just talking about. So Moshe took the rod from before the Lord as he commanded him. Everybody know what happened next? Moshe took the rod, stood before the rock, commanded it to spring forth water, and it gushed forth, and he worshiped the Lord, right? Absolutely not. You guys did read this week, right? Maybe you read before. I don't know. You might have read it a few times. He didn't do that. He didn't do that. And Neil's taught on this before, and you know, most of us who were here for those teachings learned a lot, including the fact that if God says speak to the rock, hitting it with a stick is not good. Right? He said speak to the rock. Don't hit it twice. First of all, if you hit it the first time and it didn't work, you might go, wait, I might have got something wrong in the procedure. Oh yeah, speak to the rock. But that's not what happened. And you know, hindsight's 20/20, right? You know, I was talking to Josh last night. We were having a chat about this, and I said it's hard for me sometimes because, you know, once you've seen, once you've seen the movie Moses, I'm just saying. Who was that? Played Charlton Heston. There you go. Once you've seen him do that, you're like, wow, Moses was awesome, and he had a really good acting voice. Right? I don't think he was like that at all. Let's be honest, right? First of all, Heston really didn't look very Orthodox or, you know, Jewish. I'm just saying. It's possible, but okay. The point is this. He was just a guy like you and me. So, you know, we look at his life and we go, wow, how could he have not obeyed God there? And I think, wow, I hope nobody ever reads about my life. You know, because I wish all I'd done is hit a rock with a stick. Actually, that's not true, because I might have had just enough tenacity to go, well, it was just a rock. You know, and then I'd really be in trouble. All right, so here's something that I do want to point out here. And it's not what he did, it's what he said that's my problem. It's what he said. You know that in what I said to you when I was reading my little notes to myself was never make the mistake of adding to or taking away. That's the hitting the rock when he said talk to it. But I also said make sure God gets all the glory and you get none of it. Anybody know what I'm about to say? You guys notice this? What is it? What's the key word? We. Really? And he's not talking about me and God. He's talking about me and Aaron. Must we bring forth water from you from out of the rock? You rebels. You ever notice how we always get self-righteous right when we're about to fall? Yeah. That's why I'm scared to be self-righteous. I'm big. It's hard to get back up. Okay. So, I'm not going to read this whole thing, through 12. But my point here is this. This is the first time we see God command Moses to do something, as I'm reading, and he really just doesn't do what he's told. He just really doesn't do it. And so now, We're in a new kind of phase for me. When I got here, I got all this time, Father's been preparing the children of Israel. First, I'll deliver you from your enemies. Right? Then I'll provide for you day by day. But now we're about to transition. Because now all of a sudden it's, instead of for you,